There's something about bananas that turns any story involving them into some wacky joke. No matter who I've told about my experiences, no matter what kind of evidence I've presented, people keep laughing it off. Friends, neighbors, the local newspaper, the FDA, I've tried them all. Nobody believes me. They see me as a prankster or a scammer or a madman. There's something about bananas that keeps people from taking this seriously. If only it hadn't been bananas. If this story was about pears or radishes, there might be a chance, but it's not. It's a story about bananas. It had to be bananas. I used to love bananas. I ate them all the time. I used to swing by the little grocery store in my neighborhood. The one that puts out bargain bins of overripe, otherwise damaged fruits. Low price for large quantities. Plenty of ways to process them, even if they're already, mushy and black. Banana pancakes, banana waffles, banana pudding, banana bread. Cut them into cereal, mix them into yogurt, blend them into a milkshake. I used to really love bananas. I ate them all the time. Until the day I found the bones. There was something a bit off about the bargain bag I'd purchased that day. The fruits were in an unusually bad state. A lot were rotten beyond rescue. Even the few fruits that were still edible needed to be used right away. The one big exception was a bunch of bananas. They were pretty small and mostly still green. I carefully inspected them, searching for a reason why they might have been sorted out. They seemed fine, just needed a few days to ripen. So I just put them aside and shifted my attention to the fruit that required immediate consumption. When I entered the kitchen the next morning, I was greeted by the sweet and sour stench of decay. My eyes were immediately drawn to the bowl on the kitchen counter. Just a few hours before, it had been filled with a mix of perfectly fine fruits. Now most of them had turned stark black. A lot of them had burst open, their flesh transformed into a dark sludge. The only ones mysteriously spared by this rot were bananas, resting on top of the filth. They weren't as small as I remembered them from the previous day. Their green peel had taken on a healthy shade of yellow. Not a single discolored spot on them. With a wrinkled nose, I pulled them from the surrounding carnage, washed away the rotting fruit flesh, and put them back on the table, before emptying the rest of the bowl into the trash. What a mess. I'd been looking forward to a nice fruit salad for breakfast. At least I still had those bananas, and I really liked bananas. I pulled one off the bunch, stripped it of its peel, and took a bite. Instantly, my teeth hit something hard and uneven. A strange, bloody taste spread in my mouth, and I looked down. A bony protrusion peeked from the flesh of the banana. My fingers grabbed hold of the thing. There was a slight resistance as I pulled. Slowly, the thing became loose. It was long. A spine. A tiny little spine, little veins spread out from the thing. They burst open as I kept pulling, slightly reddening the natural color of the fruit. My tongue slid against the hard thing still resting in my mouth. I gagged. Those uneven bumps, that taste of blood. I toppled forward and spat out the half-chewed piece of fruit. It landed on the table with a splat. From the center of the sticky wet mass rose the other half of the spine, slightly fragmented. I ran to the sink, spitting and retching. The taste kept sticking to my gums no matter how much water I gurgled. I hurried to the bathroom. After emptying half a bottle of mouthwash, I finally managed to calm down. The half-eaten banana still rested on the kitchen table when I returned, and so did its spine. My hand shook when I grabbed a second fruit from the bunch. It looked completely normal. I took a deep breath and broke it in half. It snapped in two with an audible crack, and there it was, traveling right along its center, another bony spine. Red veins reaching out into the fruit all around it. Just a few minutes later, I was already hurrying to the store. The package containing the two fruits swung at my side. As soon as I got there, I grabbed the nearest employee, and I held up the bag to his nose while loudly yelling at him about what had happened. He listened, slightly confused, to my rambling story. Oh God. So sorry, I have no idea how this could have happened. He lifted one of the mashed yellow chunks from the bag and turned it back and forth between his fingers. We have nothing to do with any of this. We'll contact the supplier and let them know about your complaint. And you can, of course, have your money back and— What? There's a goddamn piece of bloody bone in one of your bananas. How can you be so calm? He looked down at the fruit, then back up at me with a tired half smile. That's when I understood. He wasn't believing a single word I had said. He probably thought I put the bone in there myself, maybe to threaten the store with some bogus lawsuit. Enraged, I janked the half-chewed banana from his hand. I'd retrieve the rest of the bunch and return. Once the employee found a spine inside an unopened banana, he'd be convinced that this wasn't some sort of scam. I stormed into my apartment, made a beeline for the kitchen, ran toward the table, reached out to grab the bananas, and they were gone. There had still been 4 of them when I hurried out the door earlier, and now the table was empty. Something moved on the floor next to me. Something long and yellow. Right beneath the sink, I spun around, my heart beating. Nothing. I was alone. A bag of mashed bananas and tiny fractured spines swinging in my right hand. I didn't feel like I was alone, though. And that feeling stayed with me over the next few days. I kept seeing motion just in the corner of my eyes. Strange, slithering sounds filled the night. A sweet, exotic smell filled the rooms of my apartment. The signs kept getting more and more obvious until one day, I woke up. I went to eat breakfast. I had bought fresh apples, a whole bunch of fresh apples. I left them in a bowl on the kitchen table. Perfectly fresh and healthy apples, or so they had been the night before. A disgusting stench greeted me the moment I entered the kitchen. There they were, the apples, the fresh apples, formerly fresh apples. Now they were black and brown and rotting, and on top of them rested a whole bunch of tiny bananas, young and green. I broke one of them apart. It had a spine. I threw them into the oven, turned up the heat, and watched as their peels began to smolder and burst open. Their fruit flesh seeped from the open wounds, hot air escaped from the thin openings, and it almost sounded like they were shrieking. This wasn't the end. They kept showing up. More and more of them every day. Now they were everywhere. I pour myself some milk and the fluid trickles out, as a half-hardened, chunky mess and something big rattles inside the carton. I look into a bag of flour and see something yellow sticking out. The white powder, all around it, sparkled with unhealthy splotches of mold. I reach for my nightstand in the morning, and my hand bumps against a whole bunch sitting right there where my alarm clock used to be. They crowd at the top of my drawer, they clog my toilet, beneath the carpet, behind the bookcase, inside my shoes. Today, I woke up, choking and gasping for air. My eyes bulged, something thick was shoved down my throat. My twitching fingers flew up and found the smooth surface. I pulled, the thing came loose. A banana. I used to love bananas. I used to eat them every day. Now I hate them. I am disgusted by them. I am afraid of them. I'm not saying that you have to feel the same way. Maybe everybody is right, and I'm just going mad. But the next time you decide to eat one, check for bones first.